That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see some...
Donald, you must move your head.
Shinzo, you died, and I'd never got the chance to say goodbye.
Donald, I don't say goodbye. You need to remember your training. Move your head. I cannot explain. I must go.
Wait, Shinzo, if I never see you again, then see you later, Space Cowboy.
But you will see me again, because there is one last thing that I must do.
Months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take
Thank you, Shinzo.
I'll guard the roads, and I'll guard the skies.
Okay. How's that to lighten the mood? Hey, it's your guy of the 21st century, Nate Hausman here. We got to talk about Trump's certification. Yeah, it was certified. His election was certified. The deep state, the Democrats, the establishment didn't do shit. I don't trust this. We're going to go through all the poison pills that the Democrats and the Uniparty and the cabal have in store for President Trump. But we're not gonna dwell on doom and gloom, because there's some good news too to counteract all this. So if you find this content valuable, hey, give it a like on whatever platform you're on, whether it's Rumble, YouTube, Kick, or Twitter. If you find this content valuable, please share it with your friends and loved ones, and give me a follow on whatever platform you're on. Now, I have several people I want to lift up, and I'll get to them a little later. First, I want to set the tone here. This is from Zero Hedge. This is from James Howard Kunstler by way of Zero Hedge. Biden admins prank-rama. And I'll just read this article to set the stage. Poor Joe Biden can't help himself as the sun sets on his ignominious career. He ordered the American flag to fly at half-staff on January 20th, Inauguration Day, to signal grief and distress at Donald Trump's swearing in, not realizing, apparently, that Mr. Trump's first act in office will be to order the flags raised back up, signaling symbolically that the end of America's grief and distress, signaling the end to America's grief and distress under the Biden, as Julie Green calls him. You might wonder, what other sort of vicious mischief the party of chaos has in store for the final ramp-up to a momentous change of government? Well, no sooner had old JB draped the Wegovy slanderized neck of Hillary Clinton with the Presidential Medal of Freedom than Bill Clinton went on ABC's The View to declare he was open to talking with President Biden about a preemptive pardon for Hillary. Say what? What crimes does Bill have in mind that such a pardon might avail? Skolkovo? Uranium One? The Clinton Foundation's sketchy activities in Haiti after the earthquake there? Bill preemptively mentioned the old emails business as a ruse. Nothing to see there, folks, he protested. Just don't look anywhere else. You must imagine that the incoming Solicitor General, John Sauer, his first act in office will be to ask SCOTUS for a ruling on the legitimacy of preemptive pardons, blanket pardons for crimes alive, perhaps in guilty consciences, but nowhere extant as yet in the legal system. The justices might detect a certain logical incoherence in that proposition. Joe Biden should have just draped a wreath of garlic around the necks of Mrs. Clinton, Liz Cheney, and Alex Soros, standing in for old George. Yeah. Judge Juan Merchan did not get a medal. He was the judge in the case Trump had in New York, that fortified case. And if you think Trump really was convicted in such a fortified case, then you're still watching TV news. Judge Juan Merchan did not get a medal. He's warming up for his January 10th stunt of sentencing Mr. Trump for the felony of recording a payment to lawyer Michael Cohen as a legal expense times 34, so Democrats can holler, yeah, felon, as Mr. Trump re-enters the Oval Office. Judge Merchan himself has racked up an impressive list of federal offenses around deprivation of Trump's civil rights and due process issues, as well as judicial misconduct, obstruction of justice, and abuse of power. Justice may await the judge. Today, January 6th, that was yesterday, of course, is electoral vote certification in a joint session of Congress. Representative Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, has been making noises about contesting certification on the grounds that Mr. Trump is an insurrectionist under the disqualification clause in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Don't be surprised that Jamie makes a show to justify all his loose talk, but it'll only be performance. He might as well bring a chicken into the chamber and bite its head off. The shadowy clique behind Joe Biden has been super busy cooking up documents for the demandable Burr to sign before leaving office, and we'll get to some of those. Anything that supposedly might discommode the incoming Mr. Trump. JB is like a bandit fleeing the scene of a crime, throwing his stolen body into the road off the back of his truck to trip up the police closing in. Close down offshore drilling off the Atlantic and Pacific coasts forevermore, ban gas-powered water heaters, any old thing to make life more uncomfortable for the people of this land. The shadowy clique seems oblivious to the fact that the people won't appreciate these pranks. That they just give more reasons for them to drive a wooden stake through the heart of the Democratic Party, as if it even had one. Keep in mind, this cabal that Joe Biden is a middle manager of, they foisted bioweapons, a harmful injection on us. Their aim is the population. So they probably want to just blow it all up. If Biden can't have it, no one can, is their thinking. Prank of the week, though, goes to Tony Blinken's State Department. No sooner had Congress defunded his agency's Global Engagement Center, that is, its censorship coordination hub, then the Muppets at State redistributed the GEC's personnel to other corners of the agency, scared up new funding for their censorship activities from some dark hidey hole of sequestered money. Do they suppose no one will find out where these employees went? All that's necessary is to look up who was on the GEC's payroll in 2024 and earlier in the hub's heyday, and see if they remain on the State Department's payroll now, and then fire the whole lot of them for cause, abrogating Americans' First Amendment rights. Bye-bye. You're not out of order worrying, of course, that the political left and the deep state blob behind them might look in desperation for other ways to prevent Donald Trump from getting sworn in. There was a president-elect's rally in D.C. the night before inauguration, January 19th, which is also National Popcorn Day. Not a few MAGAs are wondering if that's really a good idea. The recent garish drone swarms around the USA have put folks ill at ease about swearing in the west front of the U.S. Capitol out in the open air. I'd even be a little concerned about the mechanicals of Mr. Trump's airplane as he flies north from Mar-a-Lago to the big event in Washington. Nobody will be surprised if Joe Biden, quotation marks, does not show up on the dais at the Capitol that fateful day. He at least has one final snub left for Mr. Trump as JB departs office, with the pardon he will preemptively lay upon himself in the wee hours of January 19th. In case anyone might inquire into all those shadow companies that First Son Hunter was running over the years to receive money from China, Ukraine, Russia, Romania, and God knows who else, to be redistributed, i.e. laundered, through the innumerable bank accounts of the Biden family members. There is that to consider. So, and you gotta wonder, during all this time, all this talk about Hunter Biden's business dealings and whether Joe was involved or not, what exactly was Hunter Biden selling to make money from all these foreign entities? Intel. So we're going to go through a big laundry list of poison pills that I keep trying to think of a good, umbrella term for all these bad guys. NWO, cabal. I like the cabal because it's just kind of like general all-encompassing. We're going to go through all the laundry list of poison pills, but the news isn't all bad. In fact, the news is very good. And really, the way to counteract all this is to just undo the whole, undo the whole legitimacy of this criminal organization that is posing as our government and every other country's government. So, if you want to support this channel, there's a few ways you can do that. I've got affiliate links in the, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, they're in the description. If you're watching on Twitter or Kick, there's a link in either the bio or the description to my resources page. I also have a locals page where I have exclusive content. So for $5 a month, you can watch my exclusive content and be part of a community. I'm a paying member of a couple other locals pages like Salty Cracker and Raging Golden Eagle. They love the memes I post on there. That's, it's a great community, and I want that for you. So go ahead and do that. And also, I want to bring up someone who's something of a role model to me. Bailey Symonds. I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Bailey's in Marion, Iowa. We're like the Twin Cities. Two towns just connected together. This whole stream is centered around government corruption and uprooting the criminal network that's posing as government. And you got to think about your local government too. You got to wonder how badly things are there. Bailey has been doing a great amount of work exposing police corruption in Marion, Iowa. She's got a Facebook page, and there's no way you can go through all the crap she's uncovered. There's just so much. But if you're worried about the state of things in your city or in your town or your county, Bailey has a lot of good examples on how to record, police corruption, government corruption. She's worth a follow. And she really needs our help right now because Sunday night, she and her kids were attacked. As far as best I understand it, I think it was her ex who made threatening gestures outside her window. And when she called the police, she recorded them doing about jack shit, except, sternly talking to the ex. But it's not easy being an independent journalist uncovering corruption. So right now, we don't know what we can do for her except maybe find some good legal representation. Bailey, if you're watching this, I watched Buck Crack News today, and they said they have a lawyer, like they're countersuing that guy, Chad Pelly. Ask them who they've got and see if you can get a referral. And to help her pay for this, I've posted links to her Venmo and her CashApp. So she takes donations for her work. And I really want to spread the word because she's doing great work. And really, she's, like I said, she's an example of what, anyone can do in any city in America about exercising your constitutional rights and taking the fight to corrupt, governments. It's not just the federal government. It's not just your state government. It's all this cabal, all this crap goes down to the local level. So, and really the best weapon we have against corruption is information. I've said before, it's good to be armed. Like I promote self-defense tools. I carry a handgun when I'm out. But an even bigger weapon is information. I've said it before. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Right now, the cabal's biggest advantage over the people has been secret information. They supposedly leak it out through media, but it's framed as silly jokes and things not to take seriously. They are to be taken seriously, and the whole purpose of the last 4 years, what President Trump has called the pause, was to expose how the cabal operates. We're not exposing yet. There's a lot more red pills to there's some really big red pills to take in yet. But once the enemy loses the element of surprise, then we the people will be able to crush them ourselves by the grace of God. So go ahead and support Bailey, and feel free to support me. I've got donation links in my description as well. We're all in this together. So with that, let's kind of go through these articles here. And we're just going to skim through a lot of them. Former Trump National Security senior staffer warns of dangerous move being made that will undermine President Trump in his second term. Joshua Steinman is a former military officer in Trump White House NSC official. Steinman is currently an entrepreneur and the co-founder of Galvanic Company. During President Trump's first term, Joshua served from 2017 to 2021 on the National Security Council in the Trump White House. He as a deputy assistant to the president and senior director of cyber. On Sunday, Simon warned Trump supporters that mistakes are being made right now that if they're not immediately remedied, will lead to the ineffective governance of the second Trump administration. What he's getting at is Simon described the National Security Council as a group of staff officers who sit in the White House and ensure the departments and agencies of the United States government do what the president wants them to do. Their job is to ensure that President Trump's orders and vision are implemented by government agencies. Joshua Steinman has served that a significant number of Biden NSC staffers will be kept on once President Trump is sworn into office. So, okay. This is the same agency that produced Eric. I'm not sure I can say that name on YouTube, but you can read it here. The Obama deep state asset who manufactured the complaint that led to the first Trump impeachment, no name, lied about Trump's call to the newly elected Ukrainian President Zelensky about Hunter Biden's illicit payments from Ukrainian Burisma Holdings. So what this article is getting at is there's still some Biden holdovers going to gum up the works in national security apparatus. You know what we're getting at here? World War III. There's some poison pills here wanting to weaken America's national defense. This is from back to Zero Hedge again. U.S. quietly sent heavy weapons to Ukraine well before the invasion started. Anthony Blinken reveals. So yeah, right before Russia invaded Ukraine, we were already sending weapons to Ukraine. I forget who it was. There's a great video I shared on Twitter and on Facebook. I forget who it was, but this gentleman was gave a timeline from between the fall of the Soviet Union to Russia's attack in Ukraine, just how much NATO encroached and violated the treaties we had with Russia. And that's why Russia is acting the way it is now. So, and this is just one more step in that process. So they want a war with Russia. And they probably want us to lose that war with Russia, China, whoever the case may be. From Breitbart, Zelensky torches Biden on the way out. Refusal to sanction Putin was bullshit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky lamented the hesitation on the part of outgoing President Joe Biden. I caught myself. I will never call Biden the president unless I'm quoting someone or if I'm lampooning him. So, President Joe Biden to preventively sanction Russia before the 2022 full-scale invasion of his country in an interview published on Sunday, describing threats to sanction Moscow only after an invasion bullshit. Zelensky made the comments in a 3-hour interview with podcaster Lex Friedman that the Ukrainian government-run United 24 platform, described as bold and candid, focused much of its time on the ongoing invasion of the country and Kyiv's relationship with America, both under Biden and President-elect Donald Trump. Ukraine has been in some form of war with Russia and its proxies for over a decade. Since Russia colonized Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula in 2014 under Barack Obama, the annexation of Crimea was accompanied by an ongoing war in the eastern Donbass region, which began as a conflict between Ukraine and pro-Russia separatists, but after 2022 has become a direct war between Russian military and Ukraine. Zelensky, a comic actor with no prior political experience, won the 2019 presidential election largely on public sentiment souring against the corrupt establishment, which in the West was considered pro-Europe and resulted in Zelensky being branded pro-Russian. As president, Zelensky maintained a friendly relationship with then-President Donald Trump that continues to this day, and later struggled to establish a functional relationship with Biden. So what's with all the money going to Ukraine? Goes on to talk about the Nord Stream pipeline and a lot of other things. Ukraine's real enemy is not Russia. It's the puppet government that the cabal installed in Ukraine around 2014. Look up Victoria Nuland. She was part of the State Department under Obama, and she had a really bad slip of the tongue with Marco Rubio a couple of years ago about biolabs in Ukraine. She is ear deep in Ukrainian corruption, so she's good. She's a good person to look up. Not on Google, because Google's asso. Look her up on like presearch.org. That's a free speech alternative search engine. That's the one I use. Moving on. Xi Jinping uses New Year's speech to call anew for reunification with Taiwan, setting stage for Trump 2.0 era. Chinese President Xi Jinping used a New Year's Eve address to call anew for Taiwan to be reunited with his communist country, setting the stage for a tougher era of U.S. diplomatic relations as Donald Trump prepares to return to office. Yeah, Trump's been predicting that China is going to invade Taiwan really since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. So, is that going to happen? Well, there's a 2-week window where they can start shit. Otherwise, Trump can use his negotiation skill and tariffs to really enforce and make peace deals. We didn't have any new wars during Trump's first term. All he did was annihilate ISIS and negotiate a deal with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Trump showed us the way to resolve conflicts without war, and that's through economics. Trump can do the same with Putin. Vladimir Putin has expressed he wants to talk to Trump. I'm not so sure about Xi Jinping. I have a suspicion he might be a secret white hat. Like, just as there's a deep state in every country, there are white hats in every country. And a lot of these leaders who we're not so sure about, they're walking a tightrope and threading a needle at the same time. I think the same thing about Mike Pence and Mike Johnson. But I think within this year, we're going to find out, the truth about Xi Jinping and what his real agenda is. But if we can hang on without a war until January 20th, we're home free. But they might try to start a war to really justify, canceling the Constitution. That's one poison pill they have in store for us. Continuing, Congress demands answers from Treasury Department after Chinese hacker attack. There is Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary. Senator Tim Scott, Republican from South Carolina, ranking member of the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, and Representative French Hill, Republican from Arkansas, Vice Chair of the House Financial Services Committee on Thursday, wrote to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen demanding more details of a cyber attack on the Treasury's computer systems, allegedly perpetrated by hackers linked to the Chinese government. Now, if you know anything about cybersecurity, even the most basic part of cybersecurity, hackers really can't get in unless they know your passwords, unless they know your measures. So really, the way to hack into your network or your website is to hack you. They need to get information from you. You need to either give them your login information, or you need to offer some sort of inside information to the hackers and be in cahoots with them. They talk about the Podesta emails that brought down Hillary during the 2016 election. They say that was a Russian hack job, or it could have been John Podesta simply fell for a phishing scam, which let the hackers see his login information, and that's how they got it. I'm thinking the second option is the truth, because why else would the Democrats rail about Russia collusion? But yeah, someone has access to the Treasury. Just throw it in the pile. Just seems like spitting in the ocean after all the intel that Hunter and Joe probably sold. Now, here's something really terrible. Joe Biden releases dangerous Islamist terrorists from Guantanamo Bay just days before Trump takes over. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Colin Leinberger is the author. The return of President Donald Trump to the White House cannot come soon enough because Joe Biden continues to burn down the country before he departs for good. Gateway Pundit's prone to flowery speech, but they have good information. The New York Times reported Monday that the Biden regime has decided to release 11 dangerous Islamist Yemeni terrorists from Guantanamo Bay to Oman for them to supposedly start new lives. Oman has supposedly ensured that they will monitor newly released prisoners. Now, I've heard conflicting information about Guantanamo Bay. Like, there's been a lot of construction around there, and there's talk that the White Hats in the military, including President Trump, have been conducting military tribunals for certain cabal members. I'm not going to say that's true. I'm not going to assert that's true until we know for sure. And we may never know for sure because the good guys don't want to tip their hand. But like I said, someone is walking a tightrope. In recent weeks, the U.S. has also released 4 other Guantanamo inmates, a Kenyan, a Tunisian, and 2 Malaysians. This cuts the total number of prisoners at Gitmo precisely in half, from 30 to 15 prisoners. Per NPR, here are the names of the terrorists released by Joe Biden on Monday. Uthman Abdul al-Rahim, Muhammad Uthman, Moad Hamza Ahmed al-Awi, Suhail Abdul Anam Saeed al-Sharabi, Hani Saleh Rashid Abdullah, Omar Muhammad Ali al-Rama, alternative name Zakaria al-Baidani, Tawfiq Nasir Ahmed al-Bihani, Sanad Islam al-Kazimi, Hassan Muhammad Ali bin Atash, Abdu Ali al-Haj Sharkawi, Abdul Salam al-Hila, alternative name Abid al-Salam al-Hila. These all sound like Arabic names, but you're saying they're from other countries like Tunisia, Kenya, and Malaysia? Okay. So, look up this article, Despicable Joe Biden Releases Dangerous Islamist Terrorists. Look up that article on Presearch and jot down those names because they're people to look out for. Something else from the Gateway Pundit. House Intel Chair Mike Turner confirms ISIS-linked terrorists actively operating inside the U.S., plotting attacks against Americans. So this is not a surprise. This is the whole reason I bought a Glock. I mean, the writing was on the wall October 7th, 2023, when that horrible, obscene terrorist attack in Israel took place. And I've been training with my firearm all year. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner, Republican from Ohio, confirmed on Sunday that ISIS-linked terrorists have infiltrated the United States and are actively plotting attacks against Americans. So, New Orleans and the Trump Tower in Las Vegas were just the start. Barring God's grace. Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, Turner highlighted the alarming reality that the FBI and intelligence agencies have detected individuals tied to ISIS and other terrorist organizations operating within U.S. borders. Turner's comments came in response to a question from host Margaret Brennan, who sought clarity on the existence of active terrorist cells in the country. Turner confirmed that individuals affiliated with ISIS and other terrorist organizations have indeed crossed the southern border and are now operating domestically with intent to harm Americans. Now, what makes me concerned is this is an FBI finding Do we trust the FBI after Mar-a-Lago? Any reasonable American should not, but could this be, how else would the FBI know this? Maybe they brought in the terrorists. We discussed this on my last live stream on Thursday, but this is why it's important to be armed. And I'll talk about arming yourself a little later in the stream. FBI releases video of New Orleans terrorists wearing meta glasses, that's Facebook's parent company, planting IED-filled coolers across the French Quarter. The FBI has released surveillance footage showing Shamsud Dinjabar, the perpetrator of the New Year's Day attack in New Orleans, planting improvised explosive devices, IEDs, concealed in coolers throughout the French Quarter. Jabbar was also wearing Meta-branded smart glasses, which he used to scout out the location during prior visits to the city. All of a sudden, the news about Mark Zuckerberg today becomes more significant. Mark Zuckerberg said he's going to stop censoring. Now, I'm not sure that's the real Mark Zuckerberg. I wonder if he's been replaced by a body double, like people are saying Biden and other people have been. But that's just my opinion. My point being is, what government agencies and what companies with terrorists, God forbid. To drive the point home, Alejandro Mayorkas says U.S. facing complex threat landscape following New Orleans attack. Now, you see what they're trying to do here? They're trying to make us scared. They're trying to make us, they're trying to halt economic activity. If you're old enough to remember 9/11, there was a big push to get people to go about their lives after the attacks because we didn't want the terrorists to win. It looks like Mayorkas wants the terrorists to win by shutting down our everyday lives. The United States is facing heightened threat environment following deadly New Orleans attacks on New Year's Day, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said on January 5th. The attack left 14 people dead and dozens injured after a man drove a truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in the historic French Quarter of the city. The suspect, identified as Shamsud Dinjabar of Texas, was later killed in a shootout with police. Mayorkas stated that over the past 10 years, his office has observed a significant increase in what we term homegrown violent extremism in the U.S. Homegrown, what does he mean by that? It's very difficult to landscape. Not the federal government, but state and local officials and residents and take the precautions necessary to prevent violence from occurring. Mayorkas said that the New Orleans attack was unrelated to border issues, citing the suspect's U.S. citizenship. Yeah, Jabbar was a U.S. citizen, and he was a veteran stationed at Fort Bragg, the same fort as that Matt Livelsberger, who supposedly blew up the Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower. I went over this on Thursday. Fort Bragg has deep ties to the CIA. So what Mayorkas is trying to say here is don't trust the military because they're terrorists there. Don't trust, right-wing extremists. They're terrorists. They're domestic terrorists among them. They are the domestic enemies, not the intel agencies, not the Democrats, not the left-wingers, even though so many binary, whatever, non-binary people are committing mass shootings. Continuing, whistleblower exposes TransUnion's shocking outsourcing scandal. Sensitive U.S. data and intelligence databases are being handled by underpaid workers in India. So we had a big dust up on Twitter over H-1B visas. Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk both posted some, I I would say really, really effective engagement farming posts to get people talking about the labor issue among H-1B visa holders. A lot of them are from India, and just how it's being used to deny Americans decent paying jobs, and how it's also a really racket for people in India too because they're underpaid. But what this article is saying, in an alarming revelation sent to the Gateway Pundit by a reader who wished to remain anonymous, a senior quality assurance analyst at TransUnion has detailed how the company's outsourcing policies, reliance on H-1B visa workers, and mandatory DEI training have systematically displaced American tech workers, including those working on critical U.S. intelligence databases. The anonymous source, who worked in the intelligence database sector for over 17 years, revealed how their role evolved from an entry-level assistant to a senior analyst responsible for training law enforcement officers and overseeing the quality assurance of highly sensitive databases. These restricted systems are used by local, state, and federal law enforcement, as well as other government agencies, for intelligence gathering and investigative purposes. So TransUnion is apparently a government contractor. They make software for local governments, for local law enforcement. These restricted systems are used by local, state, and federal law enforcement, as well as other government agencies, for intelligence gathering and investigative purposes. Yet despite their extensive experience and dedication, the whistleblower's position was ultimately eliminated as TransUnion shifted operations offshore to India. I mean, it's bad enough that it's being done in a foreign country. I mean, not all Indian people are bad. Not all Indian people are criminal. But you don't let government intel be done by a foreign country. That's just common sense. I don't care how well Trump and Modi get along. So this article goes on a long way, but that's another reason to follow Bailey Symonds and learn how to monitor your local law enforcement and make sure they're on the up and up. Okay, where was I? Carnage from the sky. Experts warn of new terrorist drone threat to U.S. and New Orleans. So the drone issue is not going away. I follow Iraq veteran 8888 on YouTube and on Twitter. He does a very good job of reviewing guns and recommending what kind of firearm is good for what sort of situation. His most recent video of his I saw was best weapons for World War III, and he recommends getting a shotgun to deal with drones. So I know my next door neighbor has a shotgun, so I might chat with her on what to get. But with New Year's Day attacks in Las Vegas exposing terrorism vulnerabilities anew, top security experts are warning that a lethal capability being perfected in the skies over Ukraine and the Middle East could soon be headed to the United States. Explosives dropping or gun-firing drones. There's not been enough preparation proactively to prevent an incident associated with drone warfare, and not even close. Retired FBI Executive Assistant Director Christopher P. told Just the News on Thursday. Government, I think, is waking up to it. But it's a day late, dollar short type situation. Pihota oversaw the FBI's counter-drone program before he retired, on the defensive curve, so to speak. And unfortunately, in the United States, it takes a tragedy for us to really snap out of our malaise and work towards against the threats. So, shotguns and drone warfare on pre-search. And I actually came across a U.S. military page dated, I think, April or May of 2024, talking about how drones were being used in Ukraine, in the Ukraine war. How about how shotguns were being used against drones? They're not perfect. Shotguns have a limited range compared to some more advanced weaponry against drones, but it might be a good option for, civilians, since we have a Second Amendment in this country. Who is a militia? Why, it is the everyday citizen of the U.S. I can't remember who said that. It was way back during the American Revolution. Remember this? Social media struggles to moderate the flood of leftist love for alleged CEO assassin Luigi Mangione. So yeah, the United Health CEO. I'm not sure Luigi Mangione really did it because I saw the shot of the assassin and the eyebrows don't match, but I do think it's very suspicious that the CEO, what was his name, Brian Thompson, he was either going to testify in court or in Congress about insider trading that Nancy Pelosi was involved in. So I think that's the real issue, not necessarily health insurance claims. I mean, health insurance, the insurance industry on its own is a relic. It's outdated and it's useless. It's just a bloat. It's just a burden on healthcare and really any other business that it's, involved with. Really, health insurance is just crowdfunding with extra steps, if you think about it. You're paying into something, and a whole bunch of people are paying money to help one particular person. Crowdfunding is far superior to insurance because it's voluntary, and you can choose which sources and causes you can donate to. And it's a lot more efficient, a lot fewer middlemen. In the wake of the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, social media platforms are facing challenges in moderating the influx of content from leftists praising and glorifying his alleged assassin, Luigi Mangione. Mangione. Oh, God, look at that. They're making him a saint. Business Insider reports that the case of Luigi Mangione, who is accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, continues to unfold. Social media platforms are grappling with the challenge of moderating the surge of pro-Mangione content, filling up their sites. Platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and Meta's Threads have taken steps to remove posts that they deem violating their content policies, which prohibit the glorification or justification of violent acts carried out by extremist, criminal, or terrorist organizations. Breitbart News has previously reported on groupies sending love letters to Mangione, along with a cottage industry of Mangione merchandise ranging from t-shirts to home decor. So, I've said in previous streams, what is the purpose of a court? It's to present evidence, and avoid a wrongful punishment. That's the purpose of a court. We can do that pretty well with a free speech platform like Twitter or Rumble or Truth Social. But we still have to avoid wrongful punishment. And punishment has to be well ordered. We cannot go about vigilante justice. If we are going to fight bad guys and shoot them, it's got to be clear self-defense situation. Such was the case with Daniel Penny and Kyle Rittenhouse. You notice how the left hate Kyle Rittenhouse because he was so clearly acting in self-defense? Do you know how the left clearly hates Daniel Penny because he was acting in self-defense and defending other people on the subway platform? It looks like the left, I don't call them liberals, I call them leftists, fake liberals. Leftists hate self-defense and they love murder. I talked about this before. Real liberals and real conservatives ought to be friends. They care about liberty, individual freedom, justice, accountability, self-defense, cutting waste, supporting arts and sciences, legitimate arts and sciences. Phony liberals, which I call leftists, and phony right-wingers, which I call right-wingers, are your Democrats, your neocon Republicans, your Nazis, your communists. They're no more different from each other than Coke and Pepsi are different from each other. They're all criminals using ideology as a disguise. They're no different from Hans Gruber in Die Hard. What I think the left is trying to foment is political violence. Patriots don't start fights. We only end them. Report. This is also from Breitbart. LGBTQ flocking to gun ranges ahead of Trump inauguration because they think they're going to be sent to prison camps. A report from the Philadelphia Inquirer indicates LGBTQ groups and others in liberal voting blocs are buying guns for self-defense ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration. Okay, welcome to the gun conversation. According to the Inquirer, the liberal gun club has received thousands of training requests since the election, more than all of 2023, a quarter of which are from members of the LGBTQ community. The Socialist Rifle Association has seen a surge in memberships as well, as have the Pink Pistols. The Pink Pistol slogan says, "Armed gays don't get bashed." Matthew Thompson, a New Jersey resident who is gay, said, "The people I've been seeing on the left and the gay people who are out purchasing guns for the first time, it's all about self-defense and fear." No shit! We're not looking to arm up and storm the Capitol. We just don't want to be put in concentration camps. What do you think? Do they really think conservatives and Republicans and two-way supporters would do that? Here's the thing with leftists. They think everyone is like them, just on the different, just in an opposing faction. So and people have documented just how many school shooters in the last couple of years have been non-binary, trans. So I'm not saying all LGBTQ community members are violent criminals who want to shoot people up. I'm not saying that because I judge everyone as an individual, not as a member of a group or collective. But leftists do think that way, so be prepared. And that brings us to one of the couple of the sponsors of this program. One of them is the Dry Fire Mag, and I'm going to show you what that is here. My gear is behind here. This is a Dry Fire Mag. It goes into, this one is made for a Glock. This is my Glock 19, which I purchased a year ago with my Christmas money. A Glock 19 is a striker-fired pistol, which means it's just a certain way that shots are fired, you know. One of the best ways you can practice using your firearm is dry fire practice. That's when your gun is not loaded. See, there's no magazine in the chamber. You just practice drawing it out of your holster or out of your sling bag or your purse, whatever, what have you. And you practice aiming with, you know, objects around your house, like maybe a doorknob or a light switch or special laser targets that you can buy from Dry Fire Mag. Problem with a striker-fired pistol is you shoot it once and you have to rack the slide again to pull the trigger again. Now what the Dry Fire Mag does, it lets you pull the trigger continuously, which is more, you know, similar to an actual self-defense situation if you're facing multiple attackers. So fire it once, fire it again. Now the Dry Fire Mag also comes with certain packages of the Dry Fire Mag come with laser targets and laser sights, so you can practice your target practice. The package altogether costs about $300. Now, if you consider taking your gun to the range, which you should do, but if you go to the range and spend money on ammunition and spend money on range membership fees or visitor fees, you'll see that the Dry Fire Mag will pay for itself as far as like target practice. So it's good to go to the range. It's good to get a feel for your firearm when it actually fires a bullet. But, you know, save some money too. And consider the Dry Fire Mag. And another sponsor I have set up is actually myself. I made a website called thesafecitizen.com. You probably need to refresh the page here. There it is. It's an online store. It's an affiliate marketing store. Links to Amazon. But these are products that I have picked out. I've read the reviews. I carry some of them myself. These are self-defense tools like a sling bag, pepper spray, holsters, laser sights, folding knives, fixed blade knives that I carry myself and are a good value for the money. Like the Gerber Strong Arm. It's an all-around good fixed blade knife. You can use it in the woods for survival, for camping. It's got a glass breaker on the pommel, so you can use it to break glass if you're trapped in a car, what have you. It's a very good all-around purpose. I like products that are multi-purpose, general purpose. They can do a lot of things at once. Get more for your money. So click on the link to either the Dry Fire Mag or SafeCitizen.com or both, and click on any of the affiliate links. I get commission from these links, so that's why I support the program, and that's a way for you to be prepared in case of violent crime or, God forbid, it's not just about stopping violent crime; it's preventing violent crime. If the bad guys don't know or think that people could be armed or around them could be armed, they're less likely to do shit. Criminals search for soft targets like schools or churches where they think there's not going to be much resistance. So just being prepared can stop. Just being armed can help stop, violent attack. Let's see. Let's look at this chat here. Hello to Big Threesis and Ken Sounds Off. Big Threesis on YouTube. Ken Sounds Off on Rumble. Hi, guys. Glad you could join me. Let's continue here. Pope names progressive as Washington Archbishop. Yeah, the supposed Pope Francis has shown his true colors over the last 4, 5, 6 years. I thought he was mostly all right, but, we found out that, I guess the Jesuits aren't so cool after all. Pope Francis is a Jesuit. It's part of that section of the Catholic Church. Pope Francis on Monday appointed Cardinal Robert McElroy of San Diego, who's often described as progressive, to the position of Archbishop of Washington. McElroy, age 70, will take over for Cardinal Wilton Gregory, who at 77 is 2 years beyond the typical retirement age for bishops. McElroy became Bishop of San Diego, California's second largest city, in 2015 and Cardinal in 2022. McElroy is among a minority of U.S. bishops who oppose denying communion to Catholic participants who support abortion rights, according to the Associated Press. Francis holds the same position on the issue, saying he has never denied anyone communion. So I know communion is a big deal for Catholics. It's like if you don't take communion, you're not a Catholic. They'll exclude anyone who's not Catholic. And if you are Catholic and they exclude you from communion, that's like saying, no, you're not part of the group. If Francis never excludes anyone from communion, he's not, he's not using his best judgment. So now I'm a Methodist and I'm a Protestant. I'm kind of wondering if I should be a Methodist anymore over the whole same-sex marriage issue, but I've been watching, church services online, kind of worshiping that way. I've become a big fan of Julie Green Ministries on YouTube. I mean, on a Rumble. She got booted off YouTube because she's a truth teller, but she's fabulous. I'm a big fan of her. But yeah, so the Pope is trying to gum up the works on the church side of the U.S. Klobuchar, according to Breitbart, no need to rush Trump's nominees. We have a very functional FBI. So Senator Amy Klobuchar, the Democrat from Minnesota, said Sunday on CNN's State of the Union that President-elect Donald Trump, Trump's nominee for FBI Director, Kash Patel, did not have to be rushed through the confirmation process despite the recent terror attacks in New Orleans and Las Vegas. According to the Minnesota Democrat, the FBI is very functional. You see what she's saying here? They're gonna delay Trump's confirmations as much as they can. Now, the question is, can we get around that? I mean, I've been watching the X-22 report, and I think Senate congressional confirmations are just like an option. They're just a nice thing to do. They're not really required by the Constitution. I'm not clear on that. I need to read the Constitution again. But congressional confirmations may or may not actually be necessary for executive branch appointments. There's the other issue is as whether, we know Biden fortified his election. how many other members of Congress fortify their own elections? How many of them are really not in true position to do what they're doing? I really do think we need to bring up the issue of election fortification and really clean house, because fraud vitiates everything. How do we do that? Well, there's the Brunson case, which I need to read up on. Or we could just, say, hey, this whole thing's not the real U.S. government. It's the U.S. corporation, United States corporation, and we need to abolish that. We need to do away with that. We need to go back to what the founders gave us. There's a whole issue of the United States corporation that was foisted on us in 1871. I thought it was a conspiracy theory until I spent some time on Twitter. So the first section I was going through, possible war and terrorism threats to the Trump admin. Next is social and economic poison pills. Lame duck Biden gives California special EPA waivers on the way out. Now, fraud vitiates everything. So, resident Joe Biden's outgoing admin has granted California special Environmental Protection Agency waivers to impose higher emission standards for lawnmowers, leaf blowers, refrigerated trucks, and off-road vehicles. Politico reported on Friday, the moves are some of President Joe Biden's last attempts to safeguard California's progressive climate policies from President-elect Donald Trump a little over 2 weeks before he takes office, with a promise to dismantle the state's regulations. The EPA approval of these waivers, which grant California the authority to set stricter than federal emissions regulations under the Clean Air Act, gives states nation-leading rules an extra layer of protection from Trump and his allies. House Speaker Mike Johnson pledged Friday that the Republican-led House would prioritize ending electric vehicle policies and other Democratic climate efforts. I've gone over this before. It's okay to say it. The climate agenda is a scam. CO2 is a good thing. Plants use it. We breathe it out. Animals, humans, anything that's ambulatory, we breathe it out. Plants breathe it in. CO2 is a good thing. And sea levels haven't. You look at pictures of the Statue of Liberty from like 1910, 1920, and look at pictures of the island today. The sea levels are at the same place that they were for 100 years. It's negligible. The only reason we deal with climate change is because we got these unreasonable, unelected psychopaths, narcissists who can't be reasoned with in positions of power. How did they get positions of power? Well, first they fortified their elections. And also, they are so good at bullshitting and lying that it's kind of hard, it's kind of uncomfortable to actually have meaningful conversation with them. So we just kind of like shrug them off and they just go around behind us. You ever have someone like that in your life? Maybe a toxic spouse, romantic partner, a toxic employer. Government corruption, corporate corruption is narcissistic abuse writ large. And it's time we educate ourselves on how to deal with narcissistic, psychopathic, close to me type abuse. Some more climate nonsense. Joe Biden bans all future offshore oil and gas drilling in a bid to sabotage President Trump. Trump responds. I saw Adam Schiff, pencil neck Adam Schiff, who insisted he had irrefutable evidence of Trump's collusion with Russia. He was elected to the Senate, and he was bragging that, oh yeah, offshore drilling is now permanently banned. Okay. First of all, we're going to prove you're a crook, Adam Schiff. We're going to arrest you. We're going to nullify your elections. We're going to nullify the elections of all the frauds in Congress. And we're going to go through this again. We're going to pass a real law. Joe Biden is not finished sabotaging his successor before he finally leaves the White House in complete disgrace. As Daily Mail reported, Joe Biden has officially banned all future offshore oil and gas drilling in an effort to sabotage President Trump's vote to unleash American energy dominance, which includes offshore drilling. Trump has also vowed to ditch Biden's environmentally damaging green energy policies. So there's a story out of Michigan. They're going to bulldoze, they're going to clear a whole bunch of forest to put up solar panels. It's like the whole point of planting trees back when I was a teenager, back in the 90s, was to reduce carbon by growing more trees to take in that carbon dioxide. It's like, that's how you know this is all bullshit. The other way you know it's all bullshit is we don't impose these sorts of things on other countries like China and India. India, I'm on the fence. We can negotiate with them. China is our enemy until the White Hats clean house there. We got to clean house here in the U.S. first before we can spread it around the world. So, Biden announced Monday morning he's utilizing his power under the 70-year-old Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act to block all future oil and natural gas leasing in more than 625 million acres of federal waters. Established in 1953, this act gives the United States jurisdiction over submerged lands beyond state coastal waters and allows the federal government to lease offshore resources. Biden's ban will put a permanent halt to offshore drilling in all federal waters off the east and west coasts, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and portions of the northern Bering Sea in Alaska. The western Gulf of Mexico, where drilling is already happening, would still be permitted to drill. Biden released a statement arguing that allowing more offshore drilling would result in irreversible environmental damage, and he has no choice but to protect these coasts for our children and grandchildren. I want to get to the part where what Trump can do about this. Trump responded to Biden's latest nasty scheme while being interviewed by conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt a short time ago. He called the move ridiculous and vowed to reverse it as soon as he took office. He says, I see it just came over that Biden has banned all oil and gas drilling across 625 million acres of U.S. coastal territory. Trump stated, it's ridiculous. I'll unban it immediately. So apparently Trump has that authority as president. So what Adam Schiff was doing was just trying to troll us and demoralize us. That's how abusers do it. That's how they can control us. Either they lie, they act behind our backs, or they bully us with emotional and psychological, language that makes us question ourselves. Because an honest person questions their, what they're doing. They question whether they're right. They have empathy. They have, they have sound judgment. They know they're not always right. Supposed to be individuals. They don't know they don't know whether they're right or wrong. They're just convinced they're right. So they act with such illogical confidence that they can get around that. So, and we fall for it. Go read Ephesians chapter 6 in the Bible. Read about the armor of God and let God give you confidence. Listen to God. Look up all the scriptures where God gives power to his people. We see it in the book of Judges. We see it with Moses and Joshua. We especially see it with King David. We especially see it with the apostles in the book of Acts. God's Holy Spirit comes into you. He gives you the words to speak. He gives you power. He gives you grace. He gives you just the right kind of finesse to actually accomplish great things. When you have the Holy Spirit in you, when you're born again, that's when God, actually carries out the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is here right now. It's not something in the future after the apocalypse. The kingdom of God is here right now, and it's in us. It's a state of mind in which we're attuned to God's will, and we do what God says, and God gives us power and grace and strength and courage. You're not going to be perfect. I mean, I've screwed up since I've been born again, but otherwise, there's no point in leveling up. You're continually leveling up. So there's that. New Biden water heater ban will drive up energy prices for poor seniors, says expert. This is from the New York Post. Biden admin ban on certain natural gas conduct president's climate agenda could send prices soaring for the elderly and the poor. Under the new policy, the new condensing natural gas-filled water heaters will be prohibited for sale starting in 2029 due to concerns about carbon dioxide emissions. So, another poison pill. So, question is, can Trump clear out all the bureaucrats, all the false lawmakers, and get rid of all this trash, all this, rot in the swamp in time for, save Americans from these poison pills? That's the question. That's going to be the real battle of the second term. I don't know how we're going to pull it off without proving voter for election fortification, but what we're in is a race between the Great Awakening and the Great Reset. This is from the Redditor. Chinese cyber spies reportedly targeted sanctions in U.S. Treasury raids. So we talked about about China hacking into the Treasury. Chinese spies who compromised U.S. Treasury Department's workstations reportedly stole data belonging to a government office responsible for sanctions against organizations and individuals. On Monday, the Treasury sent a letter to Congress disclosing the cyber attack. Days later, we learned Beijing snoops specifically targeted the Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, which administers economic and trade sanctions, as well as the Office of the Treasury Secretary, according to a Washington Post report. The security breach indicates the measures China is taking to gather intel on America and Uncle Sam in general, and particularly those related to Chinese entities that may soon face sanctions, the Washington Post noted, citing anonymous U.S. officials. The December 30th letter that the Treasury Assistant Secretary for Management, Aditi Hardikar, that sounds like an Indian name, sent to U.S. lawmakers blamed the intrusion on earlier Beyond Trust security incident, in which miscreants snatched an API key for the software maker's remote support SaaS product. So, for those who don't know, an API key links one type of website or software to another. So, suppose you're building a website on WordPress, and you want some outside website to give it information or do things for you to integrate that website into your own website. Use an API key for that. You can also use an API key to trade stocks for you. Like maybe you have a trading bot, or if you have certain signals on a chart like tradingview.com, you can use an API to send the signals from your bot to your exchange website where you do trading, whether you're doing stocks or gold or silver or cryptocurrency. So what the article is saying here is hackers snatch an API key for a software maker's really the Treasury. So that's how they're getting information and data from the Treasury website, from the Treasury. So a little more detail on that. Okay, we read about that, U.S. Treasury Department. More talk from Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen says U.S. will hit debt ceiling mid-January, forcing Treasury to employ extraordinary measures. So mid-January, does that mean before or after the inauguration? Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has warned that the United States will hit its statutory debt ceiling around the middle of January, a development she said will prompt the Treasury to resort to extraordinary measures to prevent the government from defaulting on its obligations. We were never supposed to get out of debt. The whole central banking system that we've been slaves to since 1913, the central bank, the Federal Reserve, lends money to the country at interest. But we don't have money to pay back the interest, so we have to borrow more money to pay back that interest. But then we have interest on top of that. So it's a never-ending cycle of debt and interest. So charging interest on loans is forbidden in the Bible. It's a method of slavery. We've been slaves to the system for 113, 14 years. 100, 11, 12 years. And we're just waking up to that. This whole thing needs to be scrapped. We need to go back to an asset-based, currency. We need to bring back gold and silver. We can even include Bitcoin and XRP and other cryptocurrencies that have been proven. Cryptocurrency is controversial because there are lots of scams. There are lots of pumping up schemes in crypto and with NFTs. A lot of shit coins, a lot of meme coins that are just like, oh, the developer creates this cryptocurrency, buy it. And when when all their social media followers buy it, they sell it for a nice profit and leaving investors hanging. That's a pump and dump scheme. Those kinds of coins are total trash. You should always study a coin before you invest in it. Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, Dogecoin even, they have stood the test of time. Now, I follow another Facebook page. Bailey Symonds and I are kind of like both. We actually kind of find each other online through this page. Hunter Light. I've talked about Hunter Light before. He, she, or they track PDF files in the state of Iowa, expose them. Hunter Light's been talking about Bitcoin being a money laundering tool of the PDF file cabal network, and I'm not so sure about that. I mean, criminals can use anything to launder money, to move money. Like I saw an article a couple weeks ago about the Yakuza, the criminal syndicate in Japan. They use Pokemon cards to move money. Like they know how to detect which packs have the rare cards that are worth a lot of money. They have special methods to find those, invest in those, and move money that way. Criminals can use any sort of medium to move currency. They'll use good old-fashioned Federal Reserve notes. What I think the big thing about Bitcoin is Bitcoin has a public ledger. You can see all the transactions in Bitcoin on the public ledger on the Bitcoin website. Same with XRP. XRP is a little faster and it's a little more widespread than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is looking to be like the cryptocurrency for maybe nation states, the way gold was the currency for nation states for thousands of years, and Bitcoin and XRP might be the more of a better crypto for regular folks. But the point I'm getting at here is that we can use more than one currency. We don't have to be like bound by the U.S. dollar, which is really the Federal Reserve note, which is a unit of debt. In the American colonies, people used gold, silver, copper. They even used tobacco leaves. Ancient civilizations like the Egyptians, they used gold, silver, and grain, like wheat. In ancient Rome, they used salt to pay soldiers. The root word for salt is where we get the word salary. In Japan, they used gold, silver, copper, hemp, and rice as currency. My point is you can use multiple types of currency. So you can use gold, silver, Bitcoin, whatever cryptocurrency or asset that the Congress deems as a legal asset. The power to coin money lies with Congress. So whatever Congress says is legal tender, we can use as legal tender. It used to be gold and silver, and with a constitutional amendment and the act of Congress, we can include other forms of currency. We don't have to be bound by the Federal Reserve note. And since we're going to find out that this whole debt system is a trap and illegitimate and was passed illegally way back when, along with the IRS, we might just scrap the whole thing. We might just say, to hell with it all, and start over. Yeah. If PDF files, criminals want to launder money with Bitcoin, that's a stupid deal. That's for them because we can track them on the public ledger. All right. Another economic poison pill. If Biden wanted to leave an Easter egg for Trump, the dock workers deal ending on January 15th seems like a nasty one. Last weekend, we went with we went with 2025 will be messy. We discussed that subject and implications on Bloomberg Radio, YouTube, okay, on podcast. We did get some volatility. Okay, what's this person? Okay, Tyler. So the author here is reviewing the recent podcast. Where to go? The main point here. Well, it was also about Fox that after the speaker was picked on the first vote, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. While there were some delays as cloakroom deals were being hammered out, which brought back memories of Hamilton's The Room, where it happens, the whole thing went relatively smoothly. Markets were prepared for more of a mess than what actually occurred, and rightfully did well as optimism that the positive things for the economy and markets will get done. I want to get the part to the dock workers. This is really just a review of the last podcast. We'll move on. I think what they're referring to is the dock workers strike from October. A couple more poison pills and we'll move on to the next section, but this is a doozy. Well, it's only a doozy if we buy into it. Here we go. First U.S. bird flu death confirmed in Louisiana. Victim over 65 with underlying conditions. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Louisiana health officials have reported the first human death from H5N1 avian influenza in the United States. The deceased was a 66-year-old man with underlying health conditions who had been hospitalized with severe respiratory symptoms. He had direct contact with sick and dead birds in a backyard flock, which is believed to be the source of his infection. So what they're doing is I've seen posts online on social media saying, hey, having your own chickens is the first step for being conspiracy theorists because you'll be able to start living off the grid. Chickens do a lot for your household. They get rid of pests like different bugs. They give you eggs to eat. You see what they're doing here? They're trying to sabotage ourselves. They're trying to sabotage the efforts to get off the grid and be self-sufficient. In December, the CDC confirmed that the first severe U.S. human case of H5N1 bird flu in a Louisiana man who had contact with sick and dead birds in backyard flocks. According to the AP, genetic analysis of the virus revealed mutations in the hemagglutinin HA gene, which experts claim could increase the virus's ability to infect humans. These mutations were allegedly absent in samples from the infected birds on the patient's property, suggesting the virus may have mutated post-infection. Since March 2024, there have been 66 confirmed human cases of bird flu in the U.S., primarily among farm workers exposed to infected poultry or dairy cows. Most of these cases were mild. That's the important thing. Most cases of COVID were mild. I had COVID in December of 2020. And honestly, I've had colds that were worse. So I was bullied into taking the COVID shot by my family. They did a whole struggle session on me. I have problems with my family. I'm being a lot more open about it now. I mean, people in my extended family and in my friend circle know what a problem I have with my parents. So there's that. But I've been recovering psychologically and emotionally from probably 40 years of, psychological abuse. And so are a lot of people, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in the public schools. Thank God I haven't taken any boosters. And I pray, I'm really getting into my faith. I'm declaring and decreeing in the name of Jesus that the victims of the COVID shot will be restored. I mean, even the dead will come back to life. That's how extreme I'm becoming in my faith. And we all better become more extreme in our faith. Start watching Julie Green. Start watching any of the ministry channels on Rumble, because they'll give you real information, not just what the Operation Mockingbird crap in mainline churches. There's scripture that'll back up. Fucking faith as a mustard seed. Jesus himself said, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can do a lot of things just by having faith. So my faith is growing, and really, a lot of our there's a growing movement of prayer work, ringing bells. I kind of wonder if that's why, that actually got Trump elected, that saved Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania. Pray this down. We have power over Satan and his minions. Like, we are God's image bearers. We can pull rank and actually tell him to back off. I've been feeling down on myself since the taking the shot. But James 4:7 went into effect. Look up that Bible verse, and I felt so much better. Which means God has not given up on me. God has not given up on a lot of people. So we may have no other choice but to rely on God. But maybe that's the way it ought to be. And if God doesn't help us directly, he'll give us solutions, which I'll get to in just a little bit here. Holman, Bill Gates unleashes plan for a new series of gene-based injections that will target Africa. So we're going to talk about Bill Gates towards the end of this, but Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates is rolling out a plan to use Africans as test subjects for an expanded series of new genetically altering mRNA injections. He calls them vaccines, but we know they are not vaccines, at least not in the traditional meaning of the word. U.S. courts have even ruled that mRNA serums don't qualify as vaccines. The COVID vaccines, the first use of this technology, have been an unmitigated disaster. But that hasn't stopped Gates from pushing more of these gene-based jabs on the world. It's not a failure if it's intentional. These people want to kill us. World Economic Forum has plainly said depopulation is their agenda, either by death or by infertility. So, what do we do about this? I want to bring your attention to another one of my affiliate referral partners, and that's the Wellness Company. This is called the forefront of detoxifying from the COVID mRNA vaccine. I've used these products. If you were bullied into taking the jab, if you were forced by your employer or forced by your family, don't blame yourself. You were abused. There's hope. Until we get the med beds rolled out, we need to hang on and take supplements from this online store. So we got Spike Support Formula, Ultimate Spike Detox, Longevity, bison. We're finding out that bison meat and organs are highly beneficial. All sorts of cool things. Medikits. To prepare for a pandemic, you can get medikits like the Medical Emergency Kit or the Contingency Emergency Kit. These kits contain ivermectin, which the media and the Democrats and the Uniparty tried to tell you was ineffective. But shit, they found out, they actually published a study, ivermectin plus, what's it called? Bendazole? I'm mispronouncing it. Those two things together fucking cure cancer. So I got my medicines over there by my dresser. I got my ivermectin, I got my, other medications. I'm prepared for the next pandemic. You can prepare for the next pandemic too. They even have virtual care. So if you don't trust your if you want to get out from the medical establishment, the wellness company is setting up a parallel healthcare system. You can actually talk to a doctor online and do your doctor's visits there, and not get insurance involved, and actually have some productive conversations. So if you follow my link and use the code mentioned in the description, you can save 10% or 15%. I'll get a commission on anything except the virtual care visit. But the Wellness Company, I want to shout them from the rooftops. They're doing God's work. They're, God acts to his people, and God is definitely acting through the Wellness Company, just as it did with, Joshua and David and the apostles. So support them, spread the word, use my link. And if you want to support another company that's not full of food industry garbage, that'd be Blackout Coffee. I treat myself to Blackout Coffee every now and then. You order online, you get it in the mail. I'm a big fan of my hat that I got from them. Blackout Coffee is, a based company, a real American company, giving us a real American product. I've got ADHD, so I cannot get motivated to do anything unless I have my daily shot of caffeine. Like, I have such a abnormal caffeine tolerance. I can go to bed and zonk out after a coffee. So I love this stuff. I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm a caffeine junkie. And Blackout Coffee is the good stuff. So click on the link. Help yourself to a great American product that's based. Not like Starbucks, not like Black Rifle Coffee, which is a bunch of phonies, but Blackout Coffee. Use the discount code in the description. Save a little off the order. Get to it. Now, here I'm going to take a sip before I start sounding like Robert RFK Jr. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. We're going to go over some good news here, because that's what I do. That's what I do. I'm a booster. I'm a problem solver. If I don't solve the problem, I find a solution from somewhere else. And President Trump's a problem solver. And one of the problems he's just solved is getting rid of Canada's bogus prime minister. Justin from Canada resigns as prime minister. President Trump has been elected by the majority of Americans. The French governing coalition has fallen apart. France is in a state of political chaos. The German government has collapsed, and new elections are needed. The people of Romania are battling with the collective intelligence apparatus of NATO trying to hold elections. The nation-state of Georgia has rebuked the efforts of the European Union and NATO and now hold a nationalistic government. And now Canada has finally rejected Justin Trudeau. This is from the Conservative Treehouse, a great, great blog. I'm a big fan of him. Of Sundance, whatever his real name is. Changed afoot, and the globalists are losing their oligarchical grip on the people. Making an emotional announcement earlier today, that would have been yesterday, January 6th, Justin Trudeau announces that he talked to his children to explain why he has to resign as Prime Minister of Canada. For some reason, he felt we need to know that as part of this virtue signal. Sundance posted the video. I don't want to watch it because I have a very low tolerance for cringe, so we're just going to keep reading. Congratulations to the people of Canada. However, now's not the time to let up on the pressure or allow graceful exits. Now's the time to ostracize and diminish the presence of the World Economic Forum globalists. Do not be fooled. They will work to retain position, power, and status. So yeah. Keep the pressure on, keep the spotlight on them, keep exposing secrets. And President Trump said on Truth Social, many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Remember the Chinese spy balloon? That went to Canada first before it came to our country. Together, what a great nation it would be. And Trump's talking about buying Greenland, reacquiring the Panama Canal, and renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So it's like, oh my gosh, is Trump really a globalist in disguise? Did he fool us all? Part of this is trolling. Part of this is signaling, hey, the people who we thought were in charge of these countries are puppets of someone else. So over in France, former French President Sarkozy stands trial over alleged campaign funding from Gaddafi. So France's former president, Nicolas Sarkozy, goes on trial Monday over alleged illegal financing of his 2007 presidential campaign by the government of then Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. The Libyan case, the biggest, possibly most shocking of several scandals involving Sarkozy, is scheduled to run until April 10th, with a verdict expected at a later date. Sarkozy, age 69, faces charges of passive corruption, illegal campaign financing, concealment of embezzlement of public funds, and criminal association, punished by up to 10 years in prison. Sarkozy, who served as president from 2007 to 2012, has denied any wrongdoing. So, France is cleaning house. So, I mentioned earlier that their coalition government has fallen. So, some more good news, just by the American people making their voices heard in a free and fair election that was too big to rig. McDonald's scraps most of its woke DEI policies, citing changing legal landscape. You know, DEI has been foisted on companies and corporations in the media by the banking system, by investors like BlackRock and State Street, and also by banks that invest in stocks and what have you. This may be a sign that the economic system is, the financial system is getting cleaned up. If that, or we're going to scrap the corrupt criminal system and actually go back to a real economic system. McDonald's has joined the growing list of companies that have scrapped their diversity targets. In a statement posted on its corporate website on Monday, the company revealed that it had recently carried out a civil rights audit to assess its current policies. The statement read, "Last year, we completed a comprehensive civil rights audit that looked at all aspects of inclusion across our system. We also engaged with shareholders to understand their expectations and assess the overall landscape of shareholder proposals. Following Supreme Court ruling in Students of Fair Admission, Inc. versus President and Fellows of Harvard College, we also reassessed the shifting legal landscape to anticipate how this ruling may impact corporations such as McDonald's. And finally, we benchmarked our approach to other companies who are also reevaluating their own programs. So, as a result of this audit, McDonald's will implement the following changes. We're retiring, setting aspirational representation goals, and instead keeping our focus on continuing to embed inclusion practices that grow our business into our everyday process and operations. That sounds like corporate speak. We're pausing external surveys to focus on the work we're doing internally to grow the business. We're retiring supply chain's mutual commitment to DEI pledge in favor of a more integrated discussion with suppliers about inclusion as it relates to business performance. We're evolving how we refer to our diversity team, which will now be the Global Inclusion Team. This name change is more fitting for McDonald's in light of our inclusion value and better aligns with this team's work. The announcement was celebrated by conservative activist Robbie Starbuck, who has led the way in successfully urging companies to scrap their departments, which are designed to prioritize race, gender, and other inherited characteristics as opposed to the real merits of job applicants. Robbie Starbuck says, "Big news. McDonald's is ending a number of woke DEI policies today. I'll even tell you what's changing and how it happened. 3 years ago, I told McDonald's that I'd be doing a story on woke policies there. Today, they've announced the following changes." Let's actually watch this video. all right, he's doing his plug. But thank you, Robbie, for explaining it so well. And you talk about customers not approving of these corporate policies. You also got to talk about investors, shareholders. And who are the shareholders? Most shareholders are just regular folks who have a retirement fund, like a 401k or an IRA. You probably have shares in an index fund, all sorts of companies, and they're managed by one of those, big firms like BlackRock or State Street. And BlackRock are the ones throwing the weight around, enforcing all that DEI crap. Not you, the shareholder. They're using your retirement money to force political positions that most Americans object to or don't even care about. So we're going to talk about that a little later in some of my other referral partners, but keep that in mind. And the good news is corporations are walking back from that, so let's keep the pressure up. Mark Zuckerberg appoints UFC president and Trump supporter Dana White to Meta's board. And we just heard today that Mark Zuckerberg is opening up Meta to free speech. Was that really Mark Zuckerberg or was that a body double? I wonder. But let's read this. Mark Zuckerberg is desperate to make amends with Donald Trump and the movement he represents. The Meta CEO, who spent the last decade censoring conservatives and supporters of the president-elect, has appointed UFC president and fervent Trump supporter Dana White to the company's board. Bloomberg notes, White, 55, also a Zuckerberg friend, has expanded UFC into one of the world's most popular sports and entertainment businesses. MMA is like the only sport I care about anymore. I mean, NFL won't woke, NBA won't woke, Major League Baseball won't woke, college sports won't woke. It's like, it's depressing. Look how the WNBA treated Caitlin Clark. We don't need to give them any credit. UFC and other mixed martial arts leagues, they have the pulse of America. They have the pulse of the world, of the people. So they're worth following. Zuckerberg, an avid mixed martial arts fan and a recreational fighter, posted a picture on Instagram alongside White from a UFC fight in February, and White sought Zuckerberg's advice on incorporating AI into UFC's ranking systems last year. So, a lot of details here. The tide is turning. Corporations are cleaning up, but we need to keep the pressure on. Incoming board czar Tom Homan details mass deportation starting on day one. So, incoming board czar Tom Homan was on CBS's Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan on Sunday morning to discuss topics including mass deportation beginning day one of President Trump's second term. Brennan asked Homan how they plan on finding illegal alien criminals. Use bait, dangle, the complete Dragon Ball Z box set. I'm joking. When you say criminals, does that mean you're going to like already existing prisons at local level and deport people? How do you know where the criminals are? I guess is the question Brennan asked. We know where a lot of criminals are. ICE is great at this work. We know where some are, but they simply haven't been able to go arrest them because Secretary Mayorkas's policy priorities have handcuffed ICE. So we know where a lot of the criminals are. They've been prevented from arresting. We're going to start arresting state one. How much you want to bet Mayorkas knows who the bad guys are because he was in charge of letting them in? Holman also said sanctuary cities won't work with ICE and explained that arresting illegals from jail is safer. Sanctuary cities won't allow us in the jails. It's much easier to arrest a public safety threat and the safety and security in the public jail than out in the street, Holman continued. So there's also been talk about prosecuting sanctuary cities under treason laws and what have you. So there's that. Until Holman and his team of deputies and law enforcement guys can do their thing, stay strapped. Get a gun, get some gear from thesafecitizen.net.com, and be prepared. Crypto industry waves goodbye to top Fed regulator as resignations pile up. So The cryptocurrency community hates Gary Gensler, the Securities and Exchange Commission chairman. He has been an ardent opponent of cryptocurrency. He's gone. He's leaving. Now, Michael Barr stepped down from his post on Monday and follows closely on the heels of SEC Chairman Gary Gensler's announcement late last year. Michael Barr, the Federal Reserve's vice chair for supervision, stepped down on Monday, a move welcomed by crypto industry advocates as a potential shift toward more pro-digital asset policies. Barr said he would step down on Monday on February 28th, though he will continue to serve as a Federal Reserve Board of Governors member. He attributed his departure to disputes over the position, according to a statement. It comes disappointments at U.S. federal regulatory agencies become highly politicized in the lead up to pro-crypto President-elect Trump's inauguration later this month. The departure of one of U.S. banking sector top cops, who long called for the implementation of appropriate guardrails for the digital assets industry, elicited cheers from some corners of the crypto community. Barr stepping down is a huge one, said Samuel Arms, founder of the Florida Blockchain Business Association, told Decrypt. We need to clean out any Elizabeth Warren and Biden-associated appointees to ensure the federal government goes back to being unbiased towards our industry. As the second highest-ranking official in the Federal Reserve, Barr wielded substantial power over the U.S. banking system, a lifeline for some crypto businesses in the U.S. Who was it? Mark Andreessen, who was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said a lot of fintech and crypto, currency entrepreneurs were debanked. Like their bank accounts were frozen and they couldn't take part in the economy other than their own parallel economy with cryptocurrency. So do we need to totally do away with the Federal Reserve note? Because we don't actually have a U.S. dollar. It's a Federal Reserve note. If we want the U.S. dollar to be strong and remain the world's reserve currency, but we don't have a real U.S. dollar. We have the Federal Reserve note. So I'm not saying this is financial advice, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to acquire as much fungible assets as I can. Cryptocurrency, gold and silver, even household supplies like baking soda, grain, potatoes, groceries, non-perishable goods, because there's more than one form of wealth. And if you can do business outside of the Federal Reserve note, you'll be prepared to deal with this transition. So, not financial advice, that's what I'm doing. But we need to have actual assets in our, in our possession rather than blips on a screen that are like, just a bank's spreadsheet. Is cryptocurrency a blip on a screen? Yes. But it's regulated. Not regulated, but it's like secured by cryptographic, coding, and it's distributed. It's not controlled by a single person or organization. It runs on devices all around the world. So that's why Bitcoin and XRP are better than digital money in your bank account or a central bank digital currency, which the globalists are trying to foist on us. Government places Tencent on military blacklist, sending shares tumbling. Now, the gaming community, this company, and because they're Chinese, they're actually an arm of the CCP, the Communist Party in China. Tencent is a gigantic corporation that has ownership of a lot of companies around the world. They own a lot of shares. They have their fingers in a lot of pies. What's this? Tencent Holdings Limited tumbled in the early afternoon trading in New York after a Bloomberg report revealed that the U.S. Defense Department has designated the company as a Chinese military entity operating within the U.S. WeChat parent Tencent was among several companies, including contemporary Amperex Technology Company, chipmaker Changjin Memory Technologies, Quectel Wireless, and drone maker Autel Robotics, which were designated as Chinese military entities in a Federal Register filing. So already the white hats are, clamping down on China. This disclosure, made through an annually updated Section 1260H list, now features 134 companies according to the filing. Section 1260H refers to a provision in the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021 This section is part of the U.S. government aimed at addressing China's economic and military activities in the U.S. Bloomberg quoted a Tencent spokesperson as saying the Department of Defense's move was clearly a mistake. A Quectel spokesperson told Reuters the company does not work with the military in any country and will ask the Pentagon to reconsider its designation, which clearly has been made in error. Tencent shares in New York slumped 6.5% on the news. So people were waking up, and we had actual legitimate members of people in government already taking action against the CCP. Now, I want to read this article in full. This is from the Epoch Times by way of Zero Hedge. Trump urges you to pass a powerful bill to advance his agenda. I haven't read this article yet, but I want to. I'm going to read the whole thing. President-elect Donald Trump has called on Republican lawmakers to pass one powerful bill to advance his policies on border security and tax cuts as he prepares to return for a second term. In a social media post on Sunday, Trump said members of Congress will work on a single bill that's packed with policy items aimed at making America greater than ever before. We must secure our border, unleash American energy, and renew the Trump tax cuts, which are the largest in history, but we will make it even better. No tax on tips, the president-elect stated. Trump suggested that he plans to offset the taxes by imposing tariffs on imports from countries that have taken advantage of the U.S. for years. So I'm against taxes altogether. Like, I'm becoming more extreme in that position. Property tax is illegitimate. I've got a Zero Hedge article, which I'm going to read in my next stream, maybe on Thursday, Friday, saying explaining that property tax is illegal under U.S. law, under the U.S. Constitution. And the income tax is totally illegitimate because the 16th Amendment was passed with shenanigans. The IRS goes hand in hand with the Federal Reserve, which we know is a criminal organization, a scam, an instrument of slavery. So it's better to either have a sales tax on products or just fund the government through tariffs. Continuing, Republicans must unite and quickly deliver these historic victories for the American people. Get smart, tough, and send the bill to my desk to sign as soon as possible, he stated. His remarks came after House Speaker Mike Johnson unveiled a plan to pass Trump's legislative policies through a reconciliation bill, which would enable the policies to be passed with a simple majority, bypassing the Senate's 60-vote threshold. Johnson told Fox News that the vote on the reconciliation bill could happen as early as April 3rd and then move to the Senate. He said the bill could be delivered to Trump's desk for signature by the end of April. We're 15 days out from the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump for a second term, and we want to make sure that we're jump-starting the agenda now over the next 2 weeks, so that he's prepared and ready on day one, Johnson told the news outlet. At the end of the day, President Trump is going to prefer, as he likes to say, one big, beautiful bill. And there's lots of merit to that, because we can pull it all together, one big up or down vote, which can save the country, quite literally, because there's so many elements to it. It'll save us a little bit more time to negotiate that and get it right. Johnson said that the reconciliation bill would address Trump's priorities, such as the economy, border security, tax cuts, energy, and incentivizing U.S. companies to manufacture domestically. GOP Senate Majority Leader John Thune said on the Senate floor in December that a reconciliation package with a once-in-a-generation investment in border security and immigration enforcement will be passed within the first 100 days of the Trump administration. Thune said the GOP also planned to use the Congressional Review Act to undo some of the Biden administration regulations that are weighing down our economy and pass another reconciliation package to expand the tax relief provided to Americans during Trump's first administration. Now, do we trust Mike Johnson and John Thune? I don't trust John Thune at all because he's a Mitch McConnell disciple. Mike Johnson, he's controversial among MAGA, among the Republicans on Twitter, but I'm more inclined to trust him because he's got Trump's approval. He was in that photo on Trump's playing along with Elon, Don Jr., RFK Jr., eating McDonald's. I think Mike Johnson's in on the plan. He's one of those people who's walking the tightrope and threading the needle. He's got to play both sides. I'm inclined to trust him. Jonathan, Trump probably has leverage on soon, just as he has leverage on Zuckerberg. So leverage goes two ways. It's a two-way street. So the cabal can use leverage, like blackmail. It could be that Trump has everyone's browser history, internet history, so he can get some things done. So that's a thought. Maybe he's got something else in mind. He leverages tariffs on other countries to prevent war and make treaties. So I need to read the art of the deal. Like, I've been putting that off, but I got to do that sometime. I think I have it on my Kindle. Now, I mentioned BlackRock and State Street and all the big Wall Street, retirement managers enforcing DEI, enforcing it on companies through stocks in retirement. I'm bringing that up with my next two referral partners and partners and sponsors here. One of them is Noble Gold Investments. Now, big institutions use your retirement money to enforce their own policies on companies. You wonder why Disney's gone woke is because the people who manage shares of that company impose DEI. And Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, he's a willing participant anyway. But one way to deal with that is to either file a class action lawsuit against these money managers doing things against your will, or to take your money out of the stock market and put it into some other asset like gold. You can roll over your retirement fund into, say, a gold IRA or a silver IRA, gold or silver, with Noble Gold. Noble Gold is one of the top, gold precious metals investment platforms. I'm really proud to be sponsor for them. Another company in which you can roll over your retirement and invest in alternative assets is iTrust Capital. And that's who I personally have my retirement with. iTrust Capital, you can invest in gold and silver, and you also invest in cryptocurrency, like that have been vetted and proven to be legit cryptocurrency. It's not pumping up schemes. So, click on the link in the description or in the resources page and do yourself a favor and take control of your money. The reason Cabal has been able to control us for so long is because they control our money. So we got to take it back by taking control of our wealth. We're closing in on the end here, but we just got a few more things to go through. One is a lot of the nasty PDF files, groomers we got to deal with. That Hunter Light is big on exposing in my state of Iowa, and there's like these bad creeps in every level of government, local, state, federal, and in every country. And we got to expose them and root them out. Elon was making a big deal about the grooming gangs in the UK and how Keir Starmer, the supposed prime minister, was covering up for them for many years. And how much you want to bet the royal family is involved in human trafficking? Like, Prince Andrew was not a one-off. Brian Cates has a great tweet pointing out Jimmy Savile, the TV host in the UK. He raped like at least between 400 and 500 children, and he was friends with Prince Charles. There's a photo of Prince Charles and Prince William when William was a little kid. There's a photo of them hanging out with Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was Ghislaine Maxwell's father. There's a pair of photos of the same cabin on the countryside. You can tell it's the same cabin because by the knots in the wood. In one photo of that cabin, there's Queen Elizabeth. Another photo of that same cabin, there's Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. So the royal family is up to their eyeballs in this shit. So we got to address this. And that's probably going to be one of the roots of this whole of a lot of this corruption of the worldwide criminal syndicate cabal, New World Order, whatever you want to call it. Archbishop of Canterbury's tenure ends after resigning amid child SCX abuse. Archbishop of Canterbury, that's the Church of England, which is run by the king in this case. Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby's tenure in office ends Monday after an investigation found that he failed to tell police about serial abuse by a volunteer at Christian summer camps as soon as he became aware of it. Welby, the head of the Church of England and spiritual leader of the Global Anglican Communion, will lay down his bishop's crozier, a ceremonial longstaff, in a symbolic act which marks the end of his ministry. Most of his official functions will be delegated to the Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell. Welby had announced in November that he would resign after an independent investigation into the late John Smith, a prominent attorney, who the report said sexually, psychologically, and physically abused about 30 boys and young men in the United Kingdom and 85 in Africa from the 1970s until his death in 2018. The 251-page report of the Macon Review concluded that Welby failed to report Smith to authorities when he was informed of the abuse in August 2013, soon after he became Archbishop of Canterbury. Had he done so, Smith could have been stopped sooner. Welby's initial refusal to step aside kindled anger about a lack of accountability at the highest reaches of the church. So it's not just the Catholic Church that's got, a grape problem. It's lots of churches. So if you follow Julie Green on Rumble, she talks to God. God talks to her. God is saying he's going to shake up the church. He's going to clean house. The church is meant to be an organization that implements God's kingdom and carries it out. Keir Starmer, still in the UK here, blasts far-right calls for inquiry into grooming gang failures, complains about misinformation on X. British supposed Prime Minister Keir Starmer criticized Elon Musk and others for jumping on the bandwagon of the far-right for raising criticisms over the grooming gang child grape scandal and demanding fresh national investigations. I say grape because I probably can't say the actual word on YouTube. Here we go. In his first major comments since international scrutiny was raised over the failures to protect thousands of mostly young white girls from sexual predators, mostly of Muslim extraction and from Pakistan, Prime Minister Starmer once again shot down the idea that a national public inquiry is necessary. The government has claimed that previous localized reports are sufficient and that rather than examining the failures of local police, politicians, and other officials, focus should be on implementing changes called for by previous reports. However, Starmer has personally come under scrutiny, and some suggest that he may have been complicit in the failures during his tenure as the nation's top prosecutor between 2008 and 2013. Starmer rejected that he is seeking to obscure his history from the public, saying, per The Telegraph, "My record, it is open. There is nothing secret about being Director of Public Prosecutions. Every single case I prosecuted went to court and is looked at by a judge." So Elon, I saw a tweet by him. He said, hey, don't take Starmer's word for it. Go look at the transcripts yourself. I did. And the transcripts are, I've only heard one of them. Just one is enough to turn your stomach. But what's been happening is the UK government, probably with the full secret blessing of the crown, going back decades, has been importing foreigners, mostly from Pakistan, but also from several supposedly developing countries, importing all these foreigners into their country and allowing them to abuse and victimize and grape young British girls. And probably several boys, probably a lot of boys too. The other day, I was on Twitter and someone mentioned Man Love Thursdays. This was from a veteran of the Iraq War. And he said, yeah, working with some of the Iraqi forces, it's been called Man Love Thursday, where they would I'm not sure if this is Iraq or Afghanistan, some of the local allies of U.S. forces would bring in young men, a lot of them in their teens, and they'd initiate them by going in the back door. So, whatever thoughts about, whatever assumption you had about Islam banning LGBTQ, maybe it does on paper, but Islam has the same problem the church has. It's full of secret creeps. So, continuing with the scandal in the UK, Nigel Farage calls for investigation into Prime Minister Starmer's alleged role in Muslim grooming gang failures as top prosecutor. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has called for an investigation into Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's alleged role in the failure of the top Muslim child rape grooming gangs during his time as the country's top prosecutor. Now, they had elections last July, and if I remember right, Nigel Farage's party won more votes than Labour did. But for some reason, Labour got more seats in Parliament. For some reason, some votes count more than others in the UK. Is this a class issue? It's hard to believe that, the country that gave us the Magna Carta and was the home country, the cradle country of the American colonists, could do this. But maybe all the based English people with a conscience are Americans now. Who knows? I mean, my ancestors are from Germany, and they left Germany well before the Nazis were a thing. So, okay. Amid renewed focus on the scandal of British authorities overlooking the mass rape of mostly young white British girls by typically Pakistani Muslims in towns and cities across England, Nigel Farage has demanded an investigation into Prime Minister Starmer, who led the Crown Prosecution Service from 2008 to 2013. Speaking of the Telegraph, the Reform UK leader said, "We deserve a full public inquiry. Firstly, the public ought to know how ghastly this has been and how long it's been going on for. Secondly, the cover-up by the police, social services, now it looks like the director of public prosecutions in 2008, which has quite big implications, and the Conservative government themselves, because the sheer reluctance to debate this for fear of causing community tensions or being accused of racism." Mr. Farage also said that there must be a reckoning over the failures of multiculturalism, foisted upon the country by both the left-wing Labour Party and the supposedly Conservative Party. Yeah, the excuse for the Labour Party's landslide last July was the Conservative Party's just absolute uselessness. But again, UK Reform Party, Nigel Farage's party, won more votes than anyone else. Go figure. Nobody wants to admit the failings of multiculturalism, and they are self-evident. The mass multiple rape of white girls by Pakistani men. This is just one thread of a bigger tapestry of child sexual abuse around the world. But it's good that we're pulling on this thread. Elon has brought attention to it on Twitter. Elon's got the biggest soapbox in the world as the owner of Twitter, X. So good for him. Now, coming to topic of PDF files in this country, Georgia state judge is found dead in courtroom on final day of bench. This is from a couple weeks ago. Maybe you heard about this. State court judge Stephen Yeckel was found dead at the Effingham County Superior Court on Tuesday. That day was supposed to be the last day Yeckel would remain judge after losing his election bid in 2024. Yeckel's death is under investigation. This story discusses suicide. If you were someone... Okay, suicide crisis. Police are investigating after a Georgia state judge was found dead in a courtroom on Tuesday. The Effingham County Sheriff's deputies said in a release that they found the state court judge, Stephen Yeckel, age 74, on Tuesday morning. He appears to have died by suicide with a self-inflicted gunshot, the sheriff's office said. His death is being investigated by the Effingham County Sheriff's Office, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation will perform the autopsy. Authorities said Yeckel died sometime late Monday night or early Tuesday morning. Yeckel, who was appointed to the bench 2 years ago by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, lost his election bid earlier this year. His term was scheduled to end December 31st, 2024. So, no news why he killed himself. But if you go to Hunter Light's page on Facebook, he actually looked up Judge Jekyll's profile on truthfinder.com. Truthfinder.com is a web scraper. It costs like $25 $50 a month to use, but you can look up the online activity of almost anyone. Hunter Light found out that Jekyll is a member of OddPath. I mentioned OddPath before. OddPath is an exclusive social media platform for PDF files. OddPath is the club, the big club that you're not in. There are a couple other websites too. There's Bebo, which used to be a legitimate blogging website, but went under and was reacquired by friends of Prince Andrew. There's Bebo. There's also Meet Me. Those are kind of the three big PDF file websites in the United States, at least in Iowa, but the United States. So if you don't mind spending the money, get on truthfinder.com or look up any other like web scraper application online that you study and research and trust, and look up the online profiles of anyone in your community who you're concerned about. There was another suicide. This one, New Orleans prosecutor kills himself just days after terror attack hits the city. A prosecutor in New Orleans has taken his own life just days after the city was hit by a massive terror attack carried out by a homegrown Islamist radical. As WVUE reported Sunday, Orleans Parish Assistant District Attorney Ian Kirsting was discovered dead Saturday around 9 p.m. via suicide inside the offices of District Attorney Jason Williams' staff, according to authorities. His cause of death was an apparent gunshot wound to the head. Police said emergency medical services arrived at 619 South White Street, the DA's office building, but Kirsting was already deceased. He was 34 years old. Williams' office released the following statement. Orleans Parish DA's office family suffered a terrible tragedy Saturday night. Assistant District Attorney Ian Kirsting was a beloved member of our office, yada yada, and we send our love and deepest condolences to his family. It's important that we support each other right now, yada yada. Okay. Here's the big paragraph. WVUE notes that Kirsting specialized in sexual assault cases while working inside the DA's office. He was admitted to the Louisiana bar in 2020. The news of Kirsting's passing comes as the Big Easy continues to reel from a massive terror attack that claimed the lives of over 15 innocent individuals on New Year's Eve, as the Gateway Pundit previously reported. Talks about the terror attack, but while unlikely related to the terror attack, this latest tragic news will only raise further eyebrows and cause people to speculate until honest answers are given. So, Kirsting specialized in sexual assault cases. Now, if you follow Bailey Symonds, I'm going to bring her up again. If you follow Hunter Light, you may learn that there are lots of prosecutors and judges who also have Bebo, OddPath, and Meet Me profiles. They're in on it. A lot of nonprofit organizations, a lot of charities, a lot of movements, a lot of offices that are supposed to take care of you actually are involved in human trafficking themselves. It's hard to know who to trust. It's like, it's gotten so bad that I don't give to charity anymore. It's like, unless it's maybe on Give, Send, Go. Or I might actually hand cash to a panhandler. Like, I used to avoid doing that, but now I feel a lot better about handing cash to panhandler because it's more direct and it's a tangible asset. So there's that. Now, the fact that these two individuals killed themselves, I'm not saying Kirsting, this New Orleans prosecutor, I'm not saying outright that he's in one of those creeps, but he's worth looking into. The judge in Georgia, yeah, we verified that he is one of those. The tide is turning, and a lot of these creeps are going to take the easy way out, just as Q predicted. So take heart, be a prayer warrior, support each other financially any way you can. Find, content creators and journalists who are doing work you support, like Bailey Symonds, or a lot of people on Twitter, or myself. Support them financially, or do some digging yourself. We're closing in on the end here. I just want to remind you that Bailey Symonds has a great Facebook page. There's a lot to go through, but whatever content of hers you can is worth looking at, because she gives great examples on how to hold your local police and your local government accountable. She's been doing great work in Marion. So great that they threatened her. So go ahead and give her your financial support. And Bailey, if you're watching this, go talk to Buckrat News Media and ask who their lawyer is and see if you can get a referral. And you can also support me on my locals page. Hey, Bailey, if you're watching, let's talk sometime and I'll help you set up a locals page. I'll help you set up a Rumble account, because Rumble, look into it. I want to end the stream with 3 tweets here. More chats in the chat. Really, it's kind of valuable. Hey, just go ahead and spread the word and tell people about it. Tweet number 1. We talked about Trump acquiring Canada, Greenland, and so forth. So on. Now, this is one of the antidotes that I'm thinking Trump can use against the cabal. And all the poison pills. Joshua Reed on X, Twitter, says, remember Trump's executive orders 13818 and 13848, which said basically any entity, person, country, organization, etc., who engage in human trafficking or election interference could have their assets seized by the U.S. government, including property. Now think about Greenland, which is under the Kingdom of Denmark, and Canada, which is under the British Crown, and how Trump says he's going to make them part of the United States. Is born ad. Greenland has recently proposed claiming independence from Denmark, and Trump is heading there, and Don Jr. is heading there. Canada's Prime Minister Trudeau just resigned. Boom. So, yeah. So people have mentioned this before, and Julia Green has mentioned a wealth transfer. God is still here. There's going to be a wealth transfer. This could be it. Trump could be talking about seizing the assets of human traffickers and election riggers, seizing their assets. So if he can prove all this in court of law, he can essentially seize the assets of the entire criminal cabal. Think we could pay off the national debt with that. We can distribute that to the people and actually restore them after economic tyranny. This could be the wealth transfer that people have been predicting. We just got to prove it in court. So we just got to prove it in public, online, what have you. Waiting for this page. If you stuck with me through all this time, I appreciate you. We're just one spoke in the wheel of a great movement. So, MD Truth Ultra, as this is a pretty long tweet, but it's worth reading the whole thing. MD Truth Ultra says, some very serious accusations are being thrown around about Donald Trump. It comes down to this. Trump either played us all, or God chose him to save America. He's like the modern day King David. Which do you believe? Everyone has their theories and reasons to believe what they do, some of which make sense and some of which don't. Any logical opinionated person right now is racking their minds, trying to figure out what all this means for America as Trump discusses acquiring more territory. Is it good or bad? I believe that God tapped me and many of you on the shoulder, specifically after Trump took office in 2017. Why though? There's no doubt in my mind that our spiritual awareness right now is higher than any other point in our lives. Is that a true or false statement? So what does that mean? Is God preparing us? Was God warning us? God wants us to pray about these questions, but I'll tell you my opinion. My opinion, for what it's worth, relies 100% on faith in God alone. What I discovered over the last several years was that America was in deep trouble. The direction we were headed was unfathomable. The plans I had in place for us was truly diabolical. The scary part for me is that I didn't figure any of that out until Donald Trump stepped onto the scene and ran for president. I had no clue how bad things really were. I had no idea what the World Economic Forum was, or who George Soros was. Heck, I even admired Bill Gates. How many of you can say you didn't notice anything until Trump came along? That tells me something significant. The one world government agenda was doing just fine before Donald Trump, as many of us were sound asleep. So why wake up the masses? Why allow us to have voices? Why expose the deepest, darkest secrets? There's a spiritual element to all this. I feel it. I know it deep down in the marrow of my bones. You all can feel it too. God is using his light to expose the darkness. I get the reasons why people may feel this way. I do have questions, but it's still too early to understand the complexities of what's happening. This can be a very slippery slope, no doubt, but there are clear strategic reasons why this makes sense. Our Constitution was a godsend when it was written, and those protections and rights would transfer to Canada and Greenland. Our Second Amendment, for example, will take immediate effect, as well as other freedoms. Also, it appears to me that Trump is maybe preparing for something. He's making national security a top priority, and he's taking a drastic defensive strategic position to protect the United States. Is there a reason? Or is it simply about economic power? Economic power, shipping routes, resources, and minerals, these things will empower America and reach heights we never could before. I also believe there are many historical facts that have been long forgotten in regards to the founding of America. But the facts today for me are simple. George Soros, China, and others have had major influence in these countries surrounding the U.S. The New World Order agenda was already in effect, unbeknownst to many of us, surrounding us. That is until Donald Trump came along. So my current stance is that Donald Trump is not working to push a New World Order agenda, but instead he's been trying to counter it. That's how I feel. I'm not naive. I do understand people's concerns. I'm just personally leaning more on faith, and I've long ago placed it all at the feet of God to lead us. I've listened to God every step of the way on this journey, exposed what God placed in front of me, and helped many people wake up over the last several years. That's the path I've been on. That's the path God placed me on. I don't believe God is done with America, and therefore I 100% trust God's outcome for us. And he's responding to this tweet saying Trump was just an NWO black flunky. So yeah, we've all woken up. Conspiracy theorists since the JFK assassination, I can't imagine the hell they've been through just trying to wake us up and us not listening. You know, I heard talk about the U.S. corporation way back during the Iraq War, and I didn't understand it, so I didn't really think about it. But I was all in on the invasion of Iraq and the global war on terror. I thought that was like the next step after the Cold War. But we now know better. We all know better. How many people knew better all along and we're in a position to know to actually do something about it? That's significant. Now, coming to the subject of taxes, this is the last thing we're going to look at tonight. And I think this is kind of interesting. I've been saying online for the last weeks, human trafficking, towards police corruption, towards public schools that are grooming your kids and teaching them LGBT crap. We need a full-blown tax revolt, like the founding fathers did, like Robin Hood did, what have you. So Larry, posting on Twitter, shares this video saying, "Did she just say our U.S. tax system is a voluntary system? Seriously?" So we're going to watch this as soon as it loads. And this meme is great. We decided that we're not paying taxes anymore. Instead, we're going to hang all of you. Coming soon to a city near you, to a courthouse near you. Okay. I think that's enough. If you find this content valuable, like I said, share it, give it a like, and subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Give your support to Bailey Symonds. Give your support to Buckrack News Network on YouTube. Who else did she mention? Did Bailey mention me? Shoot. Maybe I'll mention them in my next stream. I'm trying to do these like every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm trying to work out a schedule because I have ADHD and I have no such sleep schedule to speak of. So I got to do what I can. But I'm trying to get better at being more consistent content. But I'm going to let you go. If you want to support this program, I've got donation links. I've got affiliate products. I don't just choose products for the heck of it. I try to find products and services and companies that'll benefit you and benefit the community in these crazy, weird economic times. So go and do that. I'm Nate Houseman. I'm going to let you go. And I want to let you know that more than ever, it's okay to stand up for yourself. Over and out.